I'm really excited about the conversation that's about to happen. So, Miss Alannah from Coco and Arc has been a customer of mine for a while, and it's just been amazing to see her growth. I remember I I had just started selling blanks, and can glasses or can cups were my first item. And I remember her order coming through. I think she bought maybe 10 or so pieces first. And then I was like busy trying to pack it all and get it all out and everybody's orders. And I was really excited because I finally had orders. And then 2 weeks later, another order came through from Alannah. And then I think another week later, and another order came through. The second time she used like a welcome discount. So she must have not used it the first time. And then I realized, hold on, she's growing and she needs more. Clearly, whatever she's doing is she's doing it really well. So then I messaged her and I said, "Hey, Alannah, this is Debbie. I noticed that you put through another order. I'm so happy that your business is growing. Would you be interested in wholesale?" And she was like, "Yes." And then I ended up giving her a wholesale discount. And now she literally orders boxes from me. So I message her when I'm about to put an order in my supplier and say I'm ordering, I don't know, 20 boxes. I will order an extra two for her, or, a couple extra, depending on which size or style that she likes. But I really wanted to get this chat in order because markets for her are her main selling point, and I wanted to get to know her process and how she does it, because I can't do markets. I did one market last year and I felt like I was just failing so badly at it. And so I wanted to get her expertise on it, because as part of the course, I really want to help crafters grow their businesses and grow their businesses online. And markets are a really, really good way of harnessing that local audience. And clearly she was doing so well at it. So I wanted to get her in for this chat. So enjoy this. I hope you learn a lot. And Alannah is part of the course as well. She's going, one of her goals this year is to translate all of her market sales and her audiences online. So I'm really, really grateful that she's taken the time to talk to us, and also really grateful that I'm able to help her. So enjoy.
Cool. Yeah, perfect.
Right. I'm nervous.
No, same.
So why don't you just tell me your story? How did you start this business? Start from the beginning.
Perfect. So I started my business in July of 2021. I was 6 months pregnant at the time, and I was very ill, hated going to work every day because I knew it meant I had to try and not be sick. I was a dance teacher. So, you have to be.
This is why we get
Really?
along. Yeah. I was teaching up
I've spent my
until
whole life
second.
dancing, and then
Wow.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
styles?
So as you can imagine, everything, ballet, jazz, tap, contemporary, acrobatics, everything. So pretty much since I finished high school, I just went straight into teaching, and I've been doing that. So very physical, always have to be happy and entertaining for the kids, especially with the younger ones. And it was just so physically draining that I was coming home hating it. And I love dancing, so that was not me at all. But I have previously worked for small businesses and always wanted to have my own small business. So I thought, let's give this a go whilst I'm pregnant. And then once baby comes, if it's working, I can go back to that. If it's not for me, then I'll have some time off and go back to teaching. So I gave it a go after I quit my job and loved it every minute since. And now I never want to work for anyone ever again.
Yeah.
But yeah, just started, and I started primarily as a candle business. I love home fragrance and scents, and then have slowly transitioned. I still do the candles. They're still quite
I know, I
popular,
still
but
have one.
slowly transitioning. Yeah.
I have one. I haven't lit it. I haven't
Yeah.
lit it, light it, whatever that word is. I have it, but
Yeah.
yeah, perfect.
No, that's awesome. So slowly transitioning, because I bought a Cricut machine to help the candle business to be able to create the labels and the thank you stickers and everything. And then I sort of was like, what else can my machine do? And have gone from there. So now primarily I am a crafting business, but I do still have my dedicated candle room, which I love, to be able to have both sides of it.
Mm. And what's the main outlet, I guess, or channel? Like, where do you kind of distribute? Is it mainly online? Is it face-to-face retail? Like, how does that work? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I sort of distribute in three areas. First one being online. That's not my busiest outlet, but that is what I'm working towards. As you now know, I'm pregnant again.
Mm.
So with two babies and a husband that works away, it's the easiest one for me to do from home while the babies are at home. And I can sort of do that during nap time, during when they're independently playing. So that's the easiest outlet for me physically to do, but it's not my busiest. So that's a goal that I'm working towards
Mm.
this year in expanding. My second outlet would be stocking in stores. So a lot of stores, it's a more popular model at the moment, where they rent you a space. So they rent you a shelf or area of their shop, and you pay the rent, and then they sell the product for you. So I sort of change how many stores I'm in at a time. Sometimes it's up to 10, and then at the moment I'm only in two. Just depends on the season, how it's going, where the store is. If it's in a tourist location, then it's great for summer or
Mm.
great for Christmas and Mother's Day. Or if the store is not in a tourist location, sometimes it's pretty steady just all year round, just those consistent sales. So that one's a really good one because you don't physically need to be there selling
Mm.
the stock. You just need to make sure that the rent portion is not taking out of the profit portion too much,
Yeah.
like paying a market store fee. So that's my third one, is market,
Does
and that is
does
my
the
primary income.
does the shop charge like do you pay the shop a commission or it's just the rent? So they don't
Um,
take a portion of the item sold?
every shop is different. So some shops I'm in, you would pay your weekly or monthly rent, and then they will take 10% to cover their FPOS fees, their
Mm.
packaging, like they'll wrap your
Mm.
product up and put it in the shopping bag, and just their time in general, like power,
Mm.
electricity, all of that sort of stuff. And then some shops that's included in the rent. So I'm sure you're paying
Mm.
for it either way.
Either way.
You just
Mm.
need to, it's kind of a risky one. You just want to make sure that you're getting on a contract with them where you're not signing up for 6 months, not knowing how it's going to go. So I always try and do 2 months to 3 months and test the waters a bit so that you're not financially at a huge loss, but you can give it a go, see how it's working, making sure that rent is being utilized and you're getting those sales to bring back to you, because that's audience that I wouldn't have either online or at a market. They're
Mm.
in a shopping center or a shopping mall or something like that.
And my
Um,
mind always goes to digital, right? So do you track that in any way? Like if a customer comes into this store, buys the product, like where does that information go? Like obviously the store will have their, they'll probably do their best to try and get their email address or something like that. But do you have any part of that? Or is it just like
so,
the relationship ends there?
well, I try and I always leave business cards on my stand. So if they can't purchase on that day or they want to follow along for the journey, they can find me online and at my
Mm.
website. And then I do also, with some stores, they let you leave. So when I send out an order, I usually send like a thank you discount code to try
Mm.
and get reorders. So some stores let you leave that, and when they purchase, they pop one of
Okay.
those cards in the
Okay.
bag, which is good because that transitions the customer from
Yeah.
shopping physically to shopping online, which is
Online.
my end goal, to get them
Yeah.
onto the online platform.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a little bit different to what, like, say, markets, but it's a
Mm.
similar idea where you're paying a fee and then they're
Mm.
physically shopping. The goal is to get them to that end sort of market online. But
Mm.
my
Okay.
third one is markets, which is my main
Revenue
sales
stream, I
outlet.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that I started doing markets my first week of opening. I've just always had a dream to
Wow.
have my own shop, and that was the closest thing that
Wow.
I could get to it,
Okay.
was a market stall. So the week I opened, that weekend I headed to a market. I actually did two. I don't know why I did two. That was a lot for my first
Because
time. Yeah, why not?
because you were like, go hard or
Um,
go home.
yeah, and then I was
Yeah.
addicted. I loved it. I loved being able to set it up like my own shop and um it was just awesome to be able to talk to the people in person, to be able to explain the product, how it works. Back then it was just candles and wax melts and reed diffusers, all home fragrance category, but it was awesome to be able to do that in person. So, and I've done markets ever since I started. So that's definitely my most popular outlet, and people will message me almost every day saying, what's your next market? Where can I find you? If they want to see it in person before buying online.
Buying online, okay. And do you find, like, if we're thinking about the user journey, because I'm all about that kind of digital user journey and translating that online. So what do you see as the kind of natural step to that? So say a customer finds you at a store, when you're talking about renting the shelf, and then they don't decide to purchase you then, but they follow you on socials, right? So that's, I guess, one path. But then the other side is, what if they come to a market, they browse, they really like your stuff, but they're not ready to purchase then? What happens normally, like in a market setting?
Yeah, so I always try and talk to the customer when they're in the stall. Even if they're not wanting to purchase, they usually have some questions. So I usually just try and make it as positive experience as I can for them. However, usually I try and get them to leave with a business card that has all our information, where they can either go to our socials or go to our website. Because I do find on a market day, the social media follows are increasing by 20 or 30 on that day. 20 or 30 people, accounts. And then on a non-market day, it's usually less than that. So I do know that some of those interactions are transferring into follows, into people joining the community. And then they might even follow for another few months before they're ready, commit to that purchase. They've seen the product 10 times, 12 times, and then they say, yeah, I'm ready. And then that turns into that online sale. Or they'll say, are you at this market this weekend? And I can go back and say yes or no. So I always try, if they seem genuinely interested in the product, because some people it's a market, they're just there to browse, or just there to get their fruit and veg, or they're not necessarily interested, they've just come in to have a look. So those ones you can kind of tell once they walk in. But if they're genuinely interested in the product, I always try and get them to leave with a business card, and hopefully that translate into
someone entering into your community.
Yes, socials or website.
Okay.
Community online, because that's the goal.
Have you thought about kind of like, because the one market that I did, my one market being an expert, of course I went to digital, right? And of course, like, retailing is not my forte, but what I did was I asked them, I said, oh, can I add you to my email database? So I got their email address. You could also do like a competition or something, like a like set up, you could win a lot of people do this, win your chance to win one of 5 whatever prize, then they'll give you your email address, and then they'll kind of enroll themselves into your community, right? So have you thought about something like that?
So what I've got on my ever-growing to-do list this year is to do a giveaway. So it'd be for the month of markets, because this month I've got 8 markets, so to give away something at every market is quite a lot. Too much for such a small business. So for the month of, say, April, you get a chance to win, say, a can cup or a mug or a candle at the end of the month for signing up. So I've got the form ready to go. I'm just waiting for the month to tick over so I can start fresh, because I want to do it, I think, the start to the end of the month. And then that way I can email them if they've won, because I had the idea of like, if I'm giving it away at the markets, not everyone stays at the market the whole day and everything, but it's just going to be easier to get that online and then just ship it out.
That's true. And it's hard to kind of, because I mean, they're there, as you said before, they're there to browse, and they're kind of they're probably just picking up their fruit and veg, right? So you don't want to shove a sale down their throat, right? So there has to be something in it for them to be able to willingly come into your kind of community, because ultimately 100%. You want to market to them later, but in a way that is fair to kind of their time and what they want to be marketed to about. So it's a fine line.
And I don't want to be too pushy and come across as, buy my products, give me your email address, like,
Yeah.
like then they're just going to be, no thanks, like I'm not interested
Yeah,
in this.
exactly.
So
It's
it's
like
building
the
that
red flag.
relationship slowly. And I believe the more times people see something is like the more they're likely to want to join your community and want to
Totally.
purchase online or follow
Totally.
along and see what you do in your day and all of
Totally.
that. So I try and slowly build that relationship.
You're preaching to the choir. I love it. So we talk about this in the course a little bit, right? So the TikTok that I
Yeah.
uploaded the other
Yeah.
day with, it's actually, I don't know if you can see this, but this web looking
Oh
thing,
my
right?
goodness.
Yeah, I know it's really messy. But each of these kind of, oh, it's backwards. Anyway, each of these
No,
is
that's
like
okay.
different ways for someone to interact with you, right? So ignore my very
Yes.
messy writing, but like it could be
No.
Facebook, it could be Insta, it could be at a market through word of mouth, it could be on stories, it could be on YouTube. You never know when someone's going to
Yes.
find you, right? Then they
Yes.
might, browse an email, for example, if you've got their email address. Then they might come back to
Yes.
socials, back
Mm-hmm.
to email. Then they might browse your website. Then they might go back to their socials again. This might be like 20 times in this kind
Yes.
of this gray area before they're ready to get to this section
Yes.
here. It's all backwards. Sorry, I don't know where I'm pointing. But
No,
anyway,
no, no, that's okay.
where the purchase is, right? So as you
Yeah.
say, the more touch points you have and the more, I see it as kind of borrowed time, right? They can choose to
Yes.
spend that time with you on
Yes.
socials, on whatever channels, right? So you don't want to take advantage of that. Like everyone knows when they're going to
100%.
be sold to, right? So you
And
don't
it is
want
so
that.
easy to just scroll
Scroll on
mindlessly. And if
by,
they
exactly.
choose to consume that content,
Mm.
then that's lucky. You got to like,
Exactly. You got to be
it's very
fair to
lucky for
them,
you.
but there has to
Yes.
be like an exchange. There has to be a value exchange, I call it, right? They have to get
Yes.
something from you, whether it's entertainment or education or they've learned something or whatever it is,
Yes.
you have to make that time valuable for them.
And I
So,
really
yes.
liked the point. I wrote it down in the first chapter of the course where you said 80% soft sell and 20% hard sell,
Yes.
because that's
Yes.
100% true. Even at markets,
Yeah.
which is not online, you're not writing a caption. You don't
Yeah.
want to
It's
just
the same.
say, walk
Yeah.
in, buy my cup, here's my
Yeah,
cup. Like
exactly.
you, hi, how's your
Mm,
day? Like
mm.
I take my water bottle and I drink out of my water bottle. They see me using it.
Yeah, right.
They might ask, do you have this in this color? And we're just having a conversation that
Conversation. Exactly.
hopefully leads to a sale. And if it
Mm,
doesn't, hopefully leads to a business card or they
exactly.
say, where else can I find you? Or it's just not going in straight away for that
For the
hard
hard
sale
sell,
because
yeah. Because it doesn't
yeah, because it
work.
can
It doesn't
really
work, right?
no,
Yeah.
it can be really off-putting, and I don't like going into someone else's market stall and they're just straight away, "This is what I have, and it's
Oh my
$35,"
God.
and,
Oh
like
my God.
and I'm just
It's
like, "I don't even know
hold
if I
on, too
like
much, man.
it."
Like, yeah. And
Yeah.
one of the sayings that I
Yeah.
have is you don't ask someone to marry you on the first date, right? Like
Yes.
you wouldn't ask
Yes.
them for the whatever your end goal
Exactly.
is, you wouldn't ask them. So why would you do that in a
Yes.
retail setting, in an online setting, in a, let's like I
Yes.
really want to normalize that hard sell is not what's going to sell, right? It's the soft sell
Yes.
and the education and all of that value add, and that might take you 100 times even, to get that person
Exactly.
up
Yeah.
to that stage, but that's the bit that
100%.
will grow businesses.
Yes. Yeah.
Really, really interesting. And I wanted to ask about like, how do you know which markets are a good one? Like, is it trial and error, or is it, like, how do you know?
Yeah, so definitely trial and error. I have done some amazing markets and I have done some doozies
Mm,
that have not been fantastic, but you won't know until you try. And I think chatting with other store holders, like I always chat
mm,
to my neighbors
mm.
and they say, oh, try this one. Or they might say, oh, there's heaps of crafters there. Maybe don't go to that one because there is space for everyone, but some markets
Mm.
only allow certain, like two
Of
of each.
course, like a quota. Right, okay.
Yeah. So some markets don't mind and some markets do have a quota. So um, you always have to email and say what you make, say what you sell, and then they sort of decide if there's a space for you. But I like to give a market a go 2 to 3 times before I really decide if it's going to work
Okay.
for me and my business because there's so many factors that can change the outcome of your day. Like if there's an event on, I like to do markets closer to the city. There's a
Mm.
stadium right beside one of the markets I do. So if there's a rugby league
Oh, of
game on that
course.
day, then all the people
Then
catch
you
the
know it's
train and they
going to
walk
be
through the market.
busy.
So it's a great
Yeah.
day. Um, if it's raining, of course, if it's
Mm,
raining, it sucks to be a marketer, but
yeah.
it's the risk you take. And a lot of markets won't cancel in the rain there. They go ahead, rain, hail, or
Okay.
shine. So
Okay.
unless it's dangerous, then they'll cancel and you usually get a credit. But
Okay.
I do feel like you have to do it 2 to 3 times just to get that baseline average and know
Mm,
what sort of you can expect at each one. For me personally, markets closer towards Brisbane are busier and better for me. They're worth traveling the 30 to
mm,
40 minutes into the city for versus markets closer to my home.
mm,
They're just a bit busier. My product sits better with that sort of audience. So I do tend to go out further, but it
okay.
makes the drive worth it.
Okay.
But there's just so many variables that can
Yeah,
affect it.
so
So I
many
don't
variables.
think you can try one. But there's some really great Facebook groups that you can join. So I'm
Just
in a
gonna ask
Southeast
that. Okay.
Queensland. Yeah, so I'm in a Southeast Queensland market stall holders group, and market event holders, they post in there saying, "This is our market, sign up here," or small businesses post and say, "I sell popcorn, where can I go?"
Mm,
So you get sort of both sides there, but people say, "Oh, I highly recommend this one." So I click on the page and I have a look, and it doesn't look like anyone does something too similar to me, so I give it a go.
mm,
But I always try and have 1 or 2 markets that I go to consistently,
mm.
monthly or bi-monthly, so
Is
that
is
my
it,
regulars can come
that's
back.
what I was gonna ask. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I have people who just, it's the perfect gift. They purchase almost every time they see me. They're really good to go to because they don't want to necessarily purchase online and pay that shipping fee,
Yeah.
which is a turn off for a lot of people. I do offer free shipping for over a certain amount, but if they're only picking up a cup or a mug or one candle each time, um, the markets are primarily best for them to come to. So
Mm,
I do try and stick to 1 or 2 consistently every month or bi-monthly, and then try a few new ones here and
mm,
there so that I'm expanding to new audiences every time. Because I think if you stay in the same spot every single week, you're limiting who you can see.
mm.
Because if it is a market that sells food or fruit and veg, you're likely getting people doing their weekly top up on fruit and veg. Um, or if it is a craft market, you're more likely to get new people because they haven't been to it yet. So there's a
And
few different types of markets.
do you notice like you get similar people across different markets? Like, because you kind of mentioned you would travel the 30, 40 minutes into the city. Do you find the
Yeah.
same people are got like each week are going, or is it completely different audience each time?
I would say it's a bit of a mix.
Mm,
So I definitely do get the regulars or the same type of people coming into the stalls. Um, And then you definitely find the people who are traveling or on like school holidays. You always get a lot more people coming because they bring the kids to get them out of the house. Um, and just people who just, they're not market goers frequently, but they've stopped, they've seen the market, so they pull aside. So I'd say it's pretty split evenly whether
mm,
they're a first time market goer or I see them most weeks. Because
mm.
even if they don't come into the store every week, I see them walk past
You
and I
see them,
know
yeah.
I've seen that face before. But
Awesome. And how do you know? Okay, my $1 million question is how do you know how much to make and also like what designs work and like is it all trial and error and figuring out okay this market area is a bit boutiquey so I'll make more of that like how do you
yeah,
know?
yeah, you don't. No,
Okay. There's
so
no like manual like
yeah, no, unfortunately not. But I took 8, I sell coffee mugs with designs on them and 8 can cups. So I had my usual setup with my candles and everything, and I just put them on the side of the table because I've been playing with the cricket. And I had some, I loved them, and my family had said they loved them. So I was like, I'll just make 8 to sell. And they sold out in the first hour or two. And I was
wow.
like, okay, maybe next time I'll make 16.
Yeah.
And next time I
Yeah.
make 32. And I just doubled it every time. But I find the more that you have on the table, the more sells.
Hey guys, I hope you learned a lot from that. Alannah is so talented and she has so much more to share. And I literally just decided 2 minutes ago that I'm going to release this as a podcast, as one of the first episodes. So, what was originally supposed to be just a module for the course, I'm now going to release it to everybody because I feel like there's so much information there. There's so much that we could learn from her. And also, if it helps people, especially if you're nervous about starting a business, a crafting business, nervous about, starting, going to markets and don't know where to start, I really want this to help you. So if you want to hear more, then, have a look at our course, definitely, because there's so much more in there that we share. And I'm going to have more interviews and chats like this more regularly now that I have a podcast. Yay!